The client that met with the occupational therapist is Brian. Brian is 32 years old and has 2 children. He works as a plumber for a private plumbing company. 10 months ago, Brian sustained a semi-serious back injury and as a result has been out of work since. The video that will be demonstrated is a return to work planning session with the employee, Brian. Prior to this meeting, the occupational therapist has met with Brian on multiple occasions to discuss what interventions they can complete in order to get Brian to return to work. The occupational therapist has also met with the employer to discuss the return to work plan. The video that will be demonstrated is a return to work planning session with the employee, Brian. Prior to this meeting, the occupational therapist has met with Brian on multiple occasions to discuss what interventions they can complete in order to get Brian to return to work. The occupational therapist has also met with the employer to discuss the return to work plan. The first step is the preparation and planning phase. This first phase of negotiation is one of the most important. As an occupational therapist, it is important to be prepared and have a plan whilst working with a client to ensure that time is used effectively and outcomes can be measured. Some key points that should be considered by an OT in the planning and preparation phase are: what do I need to know about my client? Who else is involved or affected by this potential negotiation? And what are some potential strengths and risks by engaging in negotiation? A major component in this phase is building rapport and establishing trust with the client. Much of the planning and preparation would have been established in the prior sessions with the client. As you will see in this next clip, the OT has established a strong rapport and trust with the client as she asks how his son's birthday was. This can demonstrate a strong client-therapeutic relationship and therefore trust is established. Hi Brian, thank you very much for coming into my office today. How are you? How have things been since I last seen you?
Yeah, really good, thanks Emily. Been going to the physio a lot lately. That's really helping with my back. So I'm sort of on the mend back to 100%, which is really positive.
Good, that's good to hear. And how did your son's birthday party go on the weekend?
It was pretty crazy, but Toby had a lot of fun, so as long as he's happy, we're happy.
I'm sure you're relieved that that's all over now.
Definitely.
So as you know, I'm an occupational therapist and we work with individuals of any age to promote and enable active and effective participation in the occupations of everyday life. So as you know, we've completed specific assessments to determine your capacity and the requirements of your job so we can design and plan a program in order for you to return to work. The second step is research and evidence gathering. A key component in achieving successful negotiation is reflecting a strong understanding of the element in which you are negotiating. In the next clip, Emily the OT demonstrates that she has gathered information about Brian's job and task description, as well as demonstrating that she has met with Brian and completed prior assessments. The more knowledge that you can possess of a person and their occupation, the greater your participation in the process of negotiation and power to persuade and compromise. So, since I last met with you, I've sat down with your employer Bob and discussed your job task description and some of the jobs that you'll be completing when you do return to work, and discuss some suitable duties for you given your pre-existing back injury in order for us to not further aggravate it. So together Bob and I put together a little bit of a return to work plan for you, and I was hoping that we could go through that today and discuss some of your tasks that you'll still be able to complete and some that you need to just be mindful of when you're completing them, as well as a bit of a timetable for when you return to work. How does that sound?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, good. Clarification is the next step in achieving a successful negotiation. Emily asks Brian if his goal is to still return to the same job as he initially had. This demonstrates active listening as well as it reflects that the OT has a sound understanding of the person, their environment and their occupation. So Brian, I have your return to work planning form here. I just wanted to clarify with you, your goal is still to return to the same role that you were doing?
Yes, definitely.
Good. Okay, so I've got a bit of a task description here of what you were doing and the task that you're still able to do. So I'll just go through that with you now. So you're still able to interpret blueprints, building specifications and install drainage systems. You can still install fixtures and pipes. And I believe you were going up on roofs to unclog drains. Yep. And so you also replacement of broken pipes and unclogging sinks and toilets.
Yep.
So that's what you were doing initially?
Yep,
So they're all still the roles that you're able to still complete given your back aggravation. But there is just one restriction that we want you to be mindful of, that you're able to lift up to 15 kilograms from bench height. So we don't want you to be bending over or lifting up from up top, just in case you do re-strain your back. How does that sound? Is there any concerns when you hear that?
No, it all sounds pretty good. In the case that I wasn't able to lift something up, what's my plan there?
Okay, so I believe that when you do typically go out to a job, you are always going out with someone else, and it's typically Daryl.
Yeah, normally.
Yeah, so Bob, Daryl and myself all sat down and we just discussed a bit of a buddy system. So for things that are exceeding 15 kilograms, Daryl is to help you with that, as well as trolleys to ensure that you're not bending straight down and that you're able to lift that weight off the ground a little bit.
Cool. Sounds good.
Good. The fourth step is the negotiation. This step is definitely made easier by having completed the above 3 steps. This step can be difficult with an employee who has had a tumultuous relationship with an employer or colleagues and is reluctant to return to work at all. The aim of this step is to come to an agreement that both you and the employee agree upon and are content with. Emily demonstrates this step when she negotiates the hours that Brian will return to work. She explains that it is important to establish a routine, thus demonstrating knowledge, which is a key component of achieving negotiation. So I know that you have been seeing a physio as well, as meeting with us, and they've given you some exercises and some stretches to do when you find that your back is getting sore. How have they been going?
Yeah, really good. Definitely feel like they're helping.
Good. Okay, good. So another thing that you are able to do is you're able to take a 10 to 15 minute break whenever you need whilst working. If you feel as if your back's tightening up or getting aggravated, just to stop and stretch and practice those exercises. So your physio signed off on this on your return to work plan, as well as your GP.
Yep.
And Daryl has been notified of this. So if you ever feel as if that you need to take a break or stretch or anything, you just need to let Daryl know, as he is your buddy. So you just need to keep someone informed that you are going off-site or off the job to complete that.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I was hoping to go through your timetable of what it'll look like when you do return to work. So we are hoping to get you back from Monday to Friday, which were the days that you were working. How does that sound?
I was kind of hoping to work just sort of 1 full day a week at this stage.
Yeah, well, it is really beneficial to start establishing a good routine, as you have been out of work for a little while. 1 full day a week might actually aggravate your back injury because you are going into quite a full day of work straight away, and you do want to start establishing that really strong routine. So how about we work from Monday to Friday but reduced hours?
Yeah, that definitely sounds
Okay,
good.
so maybe for the first week, you typically start at what time?
8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, so if you're working from 8 a.m, say we'll finish at 11:30 a.m. for the first week, and then we can increase that by 15 minutes. How does that sound?
Yep, sounds good.
If you find that 15 minutes you could go longer, then we can start increasing. Instead of every 15 minutes each week, we can go to 30 minutes.
Yep.
How does that sound?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, good. Step 5 is the closure and implementation. This final step in the negotiation process is about solidifying the agreement, which in our case is the return to work plan. The agreement has been developed and putting into place the foundations that are necessary to return to work. Emily, the OT, explains that the form needs to be signed by his GP, physio, OT and employer. She also reassures Brian that she is able to attend his first day back at work. This allows Brian to have an understanding that the interventions have been completed and he is now ready to return to work. Okay, so if you're happy with this plan and you're confident with everything and you feel comfortable with all the information here, I'll just get you to sign on this line here. I've signed it, and then we'll get your GP, and your physio's already signed it as well.
Yep.
I'll give this to you. And then on your first day of returning back to work, I'm also going to come with you just to make sure that everything runs smoothly and you feel confident on your first day back.
Sounds good, Emily.
No worries. Well, thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet with you.